We're on Eruvin, Parakeh Mishnah Aleph. First Mishnah in the 5th chapter of Eruvin. Until now, we've been talking about Eruvei Techumin. I'm going to start, with the picture of Yad Binyamin. This is where I live, Yad Binyamin. And now we've talked about the idea in the past that in Yad Binyamin, I would have 2,000 amot of Tchum Shabbat, theoretically, outside of Yad Binyamin, that I could walk, that I'd be able to walk. And if I wanted to go farther than that, then I'd have to put an eruv at the edge, and then I could move my eruv to the extent that I could get all the way almost to Gadera. Well, actually, I'll explain to that in a second. Now the question though is, where is the outside of Yad Binyamin? Where's the outside of a city in order to measure the eruv of Techumin? That's the discussion of our Mishnah. Because let's say if you look at Yad Binyamin, you'll notice that Yad Binyamin itself, if you're looking at a map, it's round, but then it has this protruding area. So do I include this protruding area? Is that the outside of the city or not? And that's the discussion of our Mishnah. Ketzad me'abrin et harim. Ibur means to make it pregnant. What this means is that when you measure Ibur, you expand the city to include everything. Obviously, in the Yad Binyamin, for example, in this example, right, you wouldn't start it here. You wouldn't cut off half the city. You would go till here. But then the question is, how do you measure where the outside of the city is? So that's what the Mishnah says. How do you expand the city? Bait nichnas, bait yotzei. If you have one house sticking in, one house sticking out, pagum nichnas, pagum yotzei. Or if you have pagum is like a tower going in or going out. If there's and I have a picture of this, I think. Yeah, here we go. Bait nichnas or bait yotzei. So you always measure. You're going to see a ribua. Let's just read to the end of the Mishnah. Pagum nichnas, pagum yotzei. Pagum is a protrusion that comes in and out. Or hayusham gedudiyot, gvahot asarat vachim. Gedudiyot are remnants of a wall. Bartunah says shivrei choma shel charvot batim, remnants of destroyed houses. And they're in shivim amma b'shirayim. They're within 70 amma, 70 plus amot. Why do we say 70 plus amot? The reason is because remember we talked about the notion of a beit se'ah. A beit se'ah is 5,000 square amot. So when you take 5,000 square amot and you have a square, that's 70 plus a little bit times 70 plus a little bit. So as long as it's within, let's go back to my Yad Binyamin thing. If I have a house within 70 amot of Yad Binyamin, it happens to be not in Yad Binyamin that way, but within 70 amot of Yad Binyamin, that's considered in. So for example, if you look there in Chafetz Chaim, or where Bnei Re'im is actually Beit Chilkiah is a better example. Because Beit Chilkiah, if you drive from Yad Binyamin to Beit Chilkiah, the houses start on the edge, right over here. It's like a very weirdly drawn, it's an agricultural Haredi town, and it's very weirdly drawn. The houses go all the way up and down. So where would I measure Beit Chilkiah from? What if I have what if there's a lone house here? So as long as it's within, let's say it's 70 amot plus. So Beit Chilkiah would be, you'd measure it, as long as it's within 70 plus of Yad Binyamin, then you're okay. Then you measure it over there. You have to look exactly on a map. This is actually in a Word document. But that's exactly the idea. You measure 70 and plus amot, 70 and a little bit amot, and if you have a bait nichnas, bait yotzei, those are all within the city. Let's go back to the Mishnah. So hayusham gedudiyot gvot asarat vachim. If you have the remnants of a house, walls that are 10 fachim high, ugisharim are bridges. Now the commentators say, based on, I think the Gemara says, that it's a bridge that people live in, that like the tax collector lived in the bridge. Unifashot. Nifashot are binyan shosim ala kever. They were like sort of these buildings they built over like mausoleums, I guess. But people would live in them. Sheyesh behem beit dira, that the Mishnah says. Motzi'in et hamidah kinegdam, so you expand out the measurement opposite them, corresponding to them. V'osin otam kamin tavla merubat, and you make it like a tavla merubat, like a square, or a rectangle tavla, square, or rectangled. So you benefit from the corners. Meaning, so let's look at our example in Yad Binyamin, or Beit Chilkiah. Right? Beit Chilkiah is very interesting because you can see, or let's say Yad Binyamin, it's a little easier to see. So what you would do is you would measure from Yad Binyamin here, and you could go to the edge over here. You would go to the edge over here. Yad Binyamin actually has a wall. But you see here that you would have this area, this is the area, the borders, and Yiskar Lazaviyot, you benefit from the corners of, I'm just going to make it a little bigger so you can see it. You're benefiting from the corners, here we go, you're benefiting from the corners of the area. Okay, and that's all considered within the city. All of this area is within the city, and from there, that's where I measure my 2,000 amot. If I want to measure my 2,000 amot outside, from each direction, that's where I'm going to measure my 2,000 amot outside of this area. That's considered the measurement of the city itself. That's how I would measure it. Let's just make that a different color so you can see it. From there, that's where I would measure it from the outside of this. Those are the outskirts of Yad Binyamin, and that way I benefit quite a bit. And we're going to talk about, okay, what happens if two cities are adjacent, and Yad Binyamin and Bir Chilkiah are a great example of that. We'll stop here. As always, if you have comments or questions, feel free to contact me at my email address, rspotter@gmail.com. I will dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, Reb Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a great day.